Hi, this is Carrie with Active Self-Protection Extra Channel, and today I have a very special guest. I have Miss Stephannie Weidner, my boss, and today I thought it would be fun to ask Miss Steph the CCW journey questions. So we'll do that right when we come back.
Today's video is brought to us by Mantis. The Mantis family of products is integral to ASP staff building handgun and carbine skills and are your most economical and fastest path to improvement in your skills too. Whether you choose the X10, the Laser Academy, the Blackbeard, or use them all in concert, they will help your practice be more effective, efficient, and fun. Go check them out, pick up a unit, and thank them for sponsoring today's video.
Welcome back. All right, Miss Steph, I don't think we need to introduce you anymore or anything, because if people don't know who you are, well, then that's just their problem.
If you don't, you can just type in the comments below, who is this woman, and we will come and tell you who I am. That's fair. Right?
I like that.
That's
I like that. All right, so first question is, tell me a little bit about your journey to becoming your own prepared protector, or as I like to say, your family's own Secret Service detail.
Okay, and this is something we've talked about a lot at Active Self-Protection, and there's a whole podcast on it. So if you want a deeper dive into it, that's on our podcast. But basically, we faced what was a legitimate, credible threat to my family. And it happened while my husband was at work, and I was a young mother at home. I had 5 kids, 10 and under. One was a baby. And I realized in that moment when I was forced to make some decisions and planning about how I was going to defend my family that I could be willing to die for my children. But that's not even a very high, I mean, we're all willing to die for our children. It's not like it's a super high bar or I'm a great parent. I was absolutely willing to die for my children. But what good did that do them when the people that did that were still there and my children then had no protector? It really wasn't like the next day then I went and started learning about this. It was just that really started me wondering what I even could do. And it was a real challenge as a mom with so many little kids, and money was tight, time was really tight. So I kind of just started reading everything that I could read online, lots of articles, all kinds of things, and that really started the journey when I realized that I could actually get my own gun, I could carry it around with me. I started learning about that, and it was really interested me, but I had grown up not in an anti-gun family, but with a lot of the myths that you hear in society about that a handgun is designed to only kill people, and it is designed to shoot people. Or the other myth that it's more dangerous for your family than it is for you. And so I was very concerned if I would be able to protect my family more than be a liability to my family. So that was a really big piece for me. And it took a couple of years before I got to that point where I was willing to do that. I
understand that. And it's hard. Sometimes we want to take action.
Right.
We don't even know where to start and where to go for accurate information, or what action do I take?
Right.
And that's one of the reasons I'm so thankful for the company that you guys have going, because it's an honest, accurate place that people can go for accurate, honest information, and it's not derp or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate, even though I was the same way, I didn't take action immediately when I felt that I needed to, meaning I didn't go out and get training right away or anything, but it began that process of going and looking and seeing what was available. So.
And it's a big, important process because they are dangerous tools to have around. And unfortunately, part of our work, we run across a lot of really horrifying, tragic stories where this wasn't done in a safe and serious way. And people, whether it be children, whether it be their parents, were harmed because of that. So I think it is important to undertake it in a very serious manner because they are life-changing devices.
Yeah, so true. All right, next question. Tell us a little bit about how have your gear or your approach or your training, how have they changed along your journey? Have they changed, and if so, how?
In some ways, they've really changed. And what I liked about the beginning of my journey was that it was my own. I was on it on my own. I didn't know anyone I could talk to or anyone I could get information from, so I had to really be responsible for my own information. So when I came to buying a gun, I decided on what I wanted. I talked to the salesperson myself. I purchased it myself. I had my little, I didn't know a lot about guns at that time, so I got my little manual out and I read it and I practiced all of the things.
Even if people know a lot, I think they should read their manual.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what all the parts were and all of that, so I felt a real ownership of that gun, and it was really mine. Now, was it necessarily the best gun? Probably not, but in some ways it was, because it was mine and I felt comfortable with it, so I practiced with it a lot. It was a little .22 pistol, Ammo was cheap at that time. I felt very comfortable and confident with it.
Revolver or semi-auto?
It was a semi-auto.
Right.
It was a Walther P22.
Awesome, yeah.
Yeah. So it was a really nice little gun, and it really did a lot of good things for my confidence.
Yes, absolutely.
And no one from people in my family to my husband to the salesman really tried to influence or dissuade me. They let me be a responsible for my own decisions and outcomes, and I think that helped a lot. There were other things that I really wasn't super excited or proud of.
Sure.
The way that
Same here.
I was, again, very nervous about children getting a hold of a gun.
Yep. Or holding them and carrying them all the time.
Right.
Nursing. I mean, goodness gracious.
Right.
Yeah.
So the way that I was carrying it was potentially the worst way possible, in that I had it in I had it magazine out, chamber empty, in a locked compartment of my purse. And I thought, well, it's probably not going to be super available to me in a moment's notice, but that at least protects my children, and it might be available in a longer term encounter for someone else. So that's how I started, and made
sense.
changes as I learned better. And part of the learning better was watching videos on active self-protection.
Absolutely. Yes.
And realizing that, boy, I could just stop at a convenience store on the way home to buy a gallon of milk. And I remember one video in particular, people walking in, and in 3 seconds, everyone's lives were changed. And I thought, that is not the defensive encounter in my mind that I was prepared for. And at some point I stopped carrying for a time because I realized I was a bigger liability than I was an asset, and I wanted to learn how to be an asset to my kids and my family. And so it took even longer after that.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, you're way smarter than I am. It was several, well, probably longer than that. It was probably a good 10 years before I understood how quickly bad things can happen. I knew bad things could happen. I just had no idea how fast an incident happened until I came across the channel and started seeing, and I had a friend send me some videos from back in the Facebook days. And, Miss Danielle, if you're watching, she knows who she is. She sent me some videos, and I was just shocked at how quickly it happened. I always thought, oh, I've got my head on a swivel. I'll be paying attention, which was so silly. I mean, I did the best I could, but I had little kids. I was paying attention to them, not necessarily all the stuff going on around us all the time.
Sometimes I feel like we require people to do things that just aren't human to do.
Good point.
They aren't possible, but
All right, 2 things that would have smoothed or shortened your journey had you known them at the beginning of your journey.
Oh man, in some ways I was so very lucky. I had such good people and mentors from the very beginning. One of the first people I really came into contact with was John. And so I was able to get directed to good instructors. I was able to get directed to good equipment. When I had, it was usually when I had questions. I really was never ever pushed any direction. So I'm not sure I could have shortened it much, because it was not a very long time between it. As you know, once you get a little bit of training, some decent gear, it doesn't take much to become quite proficient and maintain that proficiency. So I think maybe if anything, I wish I would have had more confidence at the beginning that I could be a strong and competent pistol practitioner, or however you want to say it. Because it's not that difficult to do, and I think I built it up as something quite a bit higher in my mind.
Sure. One of the things I love about, I just have to comment on this, because if there's any folks watching, I think one of the worst things we can do is push someone towards something they're not ready for. And when the very first time I got to meet Mr. John was at a range master class eons ago. My oldest was a itty bitty teenager, and I remember I didn't know him, someone in the class asked him a question. I overheard the question, and the question was, what do you tell your wife to carry? And Mr. John's answer was, I don't tell my wife to do anything, and I certainly don't tell her what to carry. That's none of my business to tell her that. That's her decision. And I was like, oh my gosh, I hope everybody hears this, because it's true. Because it pushes people in the wrong direction, and everyone gets to come to their own decision on that.
Right. I mean, somebody that you're forcing to carry, you might be able to convince somebody to carry a gun, but that doesn't mean they're going to use it in any manner. And it comes down to the fact, is your spouse a competent, responsible person able to make their own decisions? And if so, let them do that.
And that's basically what Mr. John said.
They have to live with the consequences either way, frankly. I mean, if they need a gun and don't have it, unfortunately, there's consequences for that.
So true.
But
Yeah.
So there's consequences either way. They have to be the ones to weigh the pros and cons about what they want to do.
Yeah, I love Mr. John said, my wife is smart.
Yep.
And she's confident and competent, and she makes good decisions, and she'll make her own
She'll
decision,
make her own decision.
which I just admired his, because oftentimes, back then, especially around guys, it would be like, well, yeah, I got this for her, or I got that for her,
Right.
instead of, being honest about it, which is pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah.
And often it's exactly the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Is the other big part of it.
And I know the desire is to help.
Yes.
But it's important that we understand it doesn't help. All right, a purchase decision you'd like to erase from your journey.
Yeah, so we'd probably have to go back to that first concealed carry purse.
Okay.
I mean, again, I was carrying it in a very terrible way, and then it was completely stripped empty.
The best you knew at the time.
Yeah, and it was locked up. Now, what I thought that was doing was, as I left my purse in different places, my children wouldn't be able to.
I understand
and
that.
it did do that, but it also was absolutely impossible for me to get to.
Sure.
And I think purse carry is a really uniquely difficult thing. Yeah. Any off-body carry, it's
true.
not purse carry,
Right.
it's off-body carry. Whether
Absolutely.
that's in your truck, that's off-body carry.
That's right.
Whether that's in your bag, whatever it is. And it can be done, well, not in your truck, but it can be done responsibly and safely. It's exhausting and very, very difficult. I do think there is a unique use case for having a purse that you can remove a holster and a gun and get into in a compartment that locks, and that I and you have gotten caught at doctor's offices before where you have to do x-rays or something, and now you have a gun that you need to find a way
We're
to
sending
safely...
you for a CAT scan.
Right.
What?
I wasn't prepared for that, and now I have to safely stow this. And so I was able to, in one case, get that locked up, and then I thought, it's completely locked. I've got it empty. If, God forbid, I do leave my purse somewhere, no one's going to be able to get into that. That said, it was a mistake. It wasn't anything. It just invited.
It was the best we could do at the time.
It invited risk without inviting benefits.
Yeah.
And it was a learning step, and it was one of those things that all the things that you went through bring you to where you are.
Yes,
so that's fine. I learned a lot of lessons with that purse. But
and for folks that have questions about off-body carry, especially purse carry, I encourage people to talk to Katie Johnson because she's certified in that, and she at the conference every year she teaches a class about that, and I just appreciate her approach to talking about that, because it's a difficult subject, and some people get really upset talking about that, and especially when they begin to discover things about that method of carry for themselves. It's really nice to have somebody there as kind as Miss Katie is to walk them through that.
And like you said, Katie teaches at our conference every year. You can also find them at STS Armory on Facebook, and they own a range and do a lot of teaching. Wonderful, amazing people, so they're a great resource.
Yeah, two of the smartest people I know.
Her and her husband.
Yes, exactly. All right, so when friends and family find out that you're a prepared protector of yourself and your loved ones, and they ask you how they can learn to do the same, what do you tell them? Now, I know your immediate family. Let's pretend we're not talking about that. Let's pretend we're talking about a little bit further outside that circle.
Right. It would probably depend just a bit. Like if it was someone in an area where I knew there was a competent instructor or someone that I would send them to that. I would advise anyone, I think, if you don't have a gun already, not to get one until you've gone to a class, if possible. Nothing breaks my heart more than to have someone show up at a class and they're so excited about a gun they've purchased for that class. And it's so often the wrong one, and they don't know because they haven't shot enough to make some...
Or at all sometimes.
Right. And so it's not that they're foolish for doing that. Because if I
They're doing the best they can.
Well, and if I were taking a gun class, I would assume, I needed to
show up with it too.
Right. And I'd be excited about it and all those things. But I guess that would probably be my biggest advice to people is find if you're not in my area to where I can help you as my friend and family member, let's find you someone that can shortcut your journey. Because, I mean, our journeys were, they're going upon...
Long time.
Yeah. And a lot of those years, I feel, were wasted because I was flailing around.
And a lot of money, too,
wasted. Yes. Lots of money, lots of time, because I just wasn't sure where to go. So finding that, whether it's an instructor or an actually knowledgeable friend, can really shortcut that process.
Yeah. Good stuff. All right, last question. What do you say to people when they say they want to learn how to carry, but they've heard that it's more dangerous to have a gun because it can be used against you? How do you don't have to answer the question fully, but how do you just even begin to answer a question like that?
Right, it's a big, and I think it's an important question. I mean, if I mean, the gun is a dangerous tool, and I think that is a bit of, a misuse of statistics and a myth that it's more dangerous.
Right.
There are far more people that use a firearm to successfully defend themselves.
Yes, absolutely, without question.
Than are even shot or killed with firearms. So that part's a myth, but it's not untrue that it is a risk. It's a non-zero risk to bring a gun into your home, and it has to be done really seriously and safely. And there are ways to do that. There are really ways to mitigate the risk down very, 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 very far to where the firearm is not going to be the biggest risk to people in your home. And it can be done easily, and it can be done inexpensively.
Yes, true.
So
True.
I think my discussion would be that guns do as tools far more good for society than evil. And there are safe ways to do that, and I would love to talk to them about it because as you know, the guns are the great equalizer for me and you. They represent, we can step up on a range and we are equal with all the people that are there, often quite a bit better than the people that are there. In a defensive encounter, that's what's going to equal and level the playing field for us. It's not going to be our physical strength. We're both grandmas now.
That's right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And that's not going to get, we're not going to get younger and stronger in any of those things. So this is the tool that really can help us and can give us a chance. And so I think they have a really strong place. They can bring that freedom and that equality.
Well said. Well, thank you for your time, and thanks for answering our questions today.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you guys next week.
Download the ASP Unlimited app for all the content you love from active self-protection and more with no interference from YouTube. No ads, no age gates, exclusive videos, seminars, classes, and more on iOS, Android, Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, and Android TV. Hit the link in the description or download ASP Unlimited from your app store today.